Hello, we're the Brown family. We've got Hannah, me,
Andy,
and
Sally.
So my mum and dad, Andy and Sally, have been involved in Ocean Youth Trust, formerly known as Ocean Youth Club, for quite a long time. And I'm just going to ask them some questions so that we can get a good understanding of their journey and why Ocean Youth Trust is important to them. So, Dad, to begin with, can you just tell me a bit about your involvement with Ocean Youth Club and Ocean Youth Trust? When did you start?
I was very lucky to sail on a boat called Taiku in 1974, a long time ago. And my very first trip was a weekend trip from a place called Glasson Dock up in the Irish Sea, and we sailed across to the Isle of Man. And I was 14 years old, and I arrived on the boat, and there'd been a mistake on the bookings, and it was an adults trip. And we sailed at midnight from Glasson Dock on a weekend trip all the way to the Isle of Man. I was so seasick. We got there and I slept, and when I woke up they all said, "We're going back now," and we went back. And when I got back, I'd got a week's trip booked with some friends from school, and at school they asked me how was it. I said it was fantastic. And then we did a week's trip later on in that summer, and we got boarded by the Royal Marines as we were going into Belfast Lock, because that was the time of the Troubles in Northern Ireland. And they came on board. Some of the crew were asleep down below. It was all very exciting. They came over in their rigid raiders, climbed on board, and people were woken up with these Marines with holding their guns down below.
Yeah.
When we finished the trip, there was an article in the local paper which said youngsters held at gunpoint in the Irish Sea, which was all fake news, of course, but very exciting.
Yeah.
So that was my first two trips, if you like.
And then what happened?
Then I was at school, and so to pay for my trips, I took a job at a shop called Woolworths every Saturday, and every penny went to save up to go sailing. And I was asked to sail as bosun on a brand new boat to Ocean Youth Club called Francis Drake. And during that year, we sailed up to Iceland, which was very, very exciting. And when I got to Iceland that year, I got my O-level results, and the harbour master received them by something called telex, because there was no mobile phone in those days.
Yeah.
And we sailed back and had some quite heavy weather. The steering failed in this huge gale, and I remember being down below with the skipper right in the steering flat at the back end, trying to re-rig and sort out the steering in very heavy weather, and that was really quite good fun.
That sounds really good. And then you moved on to become a skipper, and you're actually the youngest skipper. You still hold that title, youngest Ocean Youth Trust Youth Club skipper at 19.
Well, I was very lucky, and whether I would appoint somebody of my age and my skills now, I don't know, but no, I was very lucky. There was a wonderful man called David James who ran the club, and he built it up to 11 boats based all around the UK, and he offered me the chance to skipper a boat in Northern Ireland. It was a Nicholson 55. And the brief was to go to Northern Ireland and take young people from both sides of the community, the Catholics and Protestants, and we split each cruise into 50% of each, took them off to sea, and that was really good fun.
That sounds really cool. So, Mum, can you tell me a bit about your involvement with Ocean Youth Club and Ocean Youth Trust?
Yes, so I booked with a friend from college onto Duet in 1977, and we went sailing for a week. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and my friend was terrified and wouldn't set foot on the boat again. And then in 1978, I took part in the tall ships race from Great Yarmouth to Oslo, where I met your dad for the first time. And then I continued sailing after that, working my way up to a second mate.
Brilliant. And now you both volunteer on Prolific, don't you?
We do, yes.
Yeah. So Dad's a volunteer skipper on Prolific, and Mum's a volunteer second mate on Prolific, and I'm also a volunteer second mate on Prolific. So a tough question for you, Dad. What's your favourite Ocean Youth Club or Ocean Youth Trust boat that you've sailed on?
Oh gosh, that really is a tough question. My first boat that I sailed on was Taiku. Always have very fond memories of the first boat.
Yeah.
Grania in Northern Ireland, the first boat that I skippered. I stood by her while she was built and then took her sailing. Before we had Grania, we took a boat up to Northern Ireland to try it out when I was first mate, and that was a boat called Halcyon, and she was a 100-foot ketch, and she was lovely.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Prolific is just the bee's knees.
And Mum, what's your favourite Ocean Youth Trust or Youth Club boat?
Well, I like Dad. Has sailed on lots of them, but not as many as Dad. But I think probably my favourite was Greater Manchester Challenge.
I think mine too, yeah. Okay, so Mum, you said that you first met Dad in Oslo. Can you tell me how you two met through Ocean Youth Trust or Ocean Youth Club?
So I applied for a bosun's job on Grania.
Yeah.
And that's how we met properly.
Okay, so was Dad on Grania?
He was skipper.
Okay.
I wasn't on Grania on Mum's first week because I was on leave.
Yeah.
And Mum had a relief skipper who was a very good friend and a very long-term skipper with the organisation.
Yeah.
And so they had a very, very rough trip on their first trip.
Yeah.
And I went and met them in a place called West Loch Tarbert, which was when I first saw Mum.
Yeah.
And the other skipper wasn't very well and had to go home. And so I took over the boat and we sailed back in between the lull between two gales back to Belfast.
Yeah.
And that's when your mum first saw me, really.
And since then you've sailed lots together. You've had 3 children.
Yep.
Me obviously being your favourite.
Absolutely.
What?
And you've done lots and lots of sailing with Ocean Youth Trust and on your own boats as well. Okay, last question. Can you think of your favourite Ocean Youth Trust memory? So I'm going to share mine. So I remember when I was, I reckon about 11, Dad had brought Greater Manchester Challenge into Plymouth where we live, into the River Yelm, which is just by our village. And Mum actually let me take the day off or the morning off school to help Dad and his crew bring Greater Manchester Challenge from the River Yelm into Plymouth. And I remember being really, really excited, mostly that I got to have the morning off school, but also that was my first OYT experience and it was really good. And then since then, I've just had loads of really cool OYT memories. But Dad, can you think of your favourite one?
It was that first time that I met your mum.
Cute. Mum, can you think of yours?
That's a load of rubbish. So I've got lots and lots of fantastic sailing memories, and there are too many to pick one particular one, except the 1978 tall ships race to Oslo has to be one of those moments that sticks in my memory.
A standout one, yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think also one of my really good ones was when us three, helped bring Prolific back from Cuxhaven to Ipswich, and my cousin Ben was on board as well, so it was a family affair, and that was quite fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to add?
No, I've really, really enjoyed sailing with you, and I'm looking forward. We should have been sailing together this week on Prolific.
Yeah.
And obviously because of COVID we can't.
Yeah.
But there will be other times. This will all pass and we're really looking forward to getting back on board.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
Brilliant. Thank you.